Grand rising, grand arrival, grand return. Peace and blessings to the righteous and the repentant alike. I'm Chief Sophia of the Americana Band of Indians, and this is going to be a video about plasma. I had a dream. Well, first of all, Neptune is now in Eris, and so a lot of things that have been moving slow are supposed to speed up. Now, I happen to be one of these people who has Neptune at a cardinal point. What is that? Cardinal points are Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. Okay. My Neptune is at 0 degrees of Capricorn. And so because Neptune is at 0 degrees of Aries, which is a cardinal point, it is that square or trine? I think it's square. I don't know. It's aspecting because it's at a cardinal point, and Neptune is at 0 degrees. So it's aspecting me particularly difficultly. And from what I understand, this is going to go on for the entirety of this transit. So that tells me I'm probably going to have to share more of my dreams and connect them to reality, because I'm not otherwise I'm not sure how I'm supposed to deal with this energy based on what I'm feeling. So anyway, I had a dream, but this one's about plasma. Okay, I had a dream, and in the dream this is gonna be about 2 dreams. Sorry. In the first dream, I was at my grandmother's house, and some guy asked me to help him get his daughter from his baby mama, something like that. And so I was like, okay. So I get in my car, and there's a lady in the front seat, and we drive around the corner to the baby mother's house. Now, this particular house, I was friends with the girl who lived there for a little while, but her mom really didn't like me, like, at all. She just thought I was strange, which I am. So but anyway, so we go to the house, and it's this, I don't know who this lady is, and I'm like, I'm trying to negotiate this thing for about your daughter, and she was like, oh, okay, come on in. So when I go in the house, she gives me like a rag or something to hold, and I'm holding the rag, and I'm like, she's still like talking to me, and I see this dog, and in retrospect, the dog reminds me of the dogs that they always show for the Inquisition, with the small head and a big body. And I was, I didn't make anything of it. The house was nice, and I was talking to the lady, and then all of a sudden, like, I hit the ground. I passed out. And she said, that's what you get for coming to people's house and trying to take their stuff. And in my mind, because I could still think, I'm like, I did not come to your house trying to take nothing. This is supposed to be some kind of a negotiation. What are you talking about? So anyway, the dog comes over to me and is like on top of me. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And she's like, hold on, not yet. And I'm like, not yet? What is getting ready to happen? The next thing I knew, the person who had come with me, who stayed in the car, bust through the front door, threw this little spiky ball like around this side, threw it at the lady. The lady caught it and hit the ground. And so the dog gets off of me and goes and looks at her. So the girl who was riding with me came over to me, helped me get up, and we walked out the door, and I woke up. Okay. That was a strange dream. And I was like, I have no idea what to do with this information. Like, what was that spiky ball? Like, why did she throw it at her? Why did the lady fall? Why the lady thought I was coming to try to take something from her? What was this about entirely? Like, I literally had no idea what this dream was about. Okay. So fast forward, and then the next day or a day later, something, I had another dream. And in this dream was a lot different. I was at like a food court or something, and in this food court, I was having lunch. There we go. I was having lunch or something with my family, like not my whole extended family, just like my mom, my kids, something like that. And there was like a town hall or a rally or something going on with Trump there. And I went into this big room, and it almost seemed like it was a press conference. And so the person who was asking the question was someone that I recently just started following on Twitter, but she said something really interesting. She's a white person, and she said that she's tired of these, racist white people always talking about Indians. Like, it's old, get over it. And I really respected her for that, because amongst the white nationalist group, hating Indians is your number one thing. Like, you hate all Indians. Like, I don't know how else to describe it. You just hate the Indians. Like, everything about them, like all of them. Like, it doesn't matter. Anyway, you just hate all of them, right? So for her to say this, knowing that her followers, some of them fall into this racial group, is kind of, it's a really bold statement. And so I had a lot of respect for her after that. So, anyway, she tries to ask Trump a question, and in retrospect, she didn't form the question properly. She was basically saying, like, the way that she asked the question was not to, it wasn't in a manner that people ask questions to get him to actually think about it. Because if you ever watch a Trump press conference, there's two ways people ask questions. Peter Doocy is a really good example. He gives a foundation of the policies, the position that Trump has, and then asks a question based on the specific policy. The news media, when they ask a question, they don't give a framing for the question that is based on the reality of his policy. So they may say, like, for example, in the Signalgate thing, right? They kept asking him over and over again, like, if this person was let into this group by this guy, don't you think you should fire him? And it's like, you don't understand. You got the premise all wrong. Like, no. And so the way that she asked the question, it wasn't framed in the actual reality of the policy that he has. So, for example, I think that she asked the question like, your administration is like removing, they want to take out sodas from SNAP, but a lot of indigenous, how do you think this is going to affect the indigenous people who use soda as a part of their healing process, right? Something, it was like that. And I just wouldn't have framed the question like that. I would have framed the question being that you had, record numbers of black voters, record numbers of Indian voters, and that black people use ginger ale as one of their healing modalities. What is your administration's policy on ginger ale being removed? Because they're removing soda from SNAP, that's going to include ginger ale. We use ginger ale as a healing modality. So if you remove the ginger ale from the SNAP program, then you're removing a healing modality that black people use. That's how I would have framed the question. I would have made the question more succinct. But she was kind of like meandering around. And so when he answered her, he was like, I had record numbers of black voters. I had record numbers of this voters. I had record numbers of Indian voters. And they all love me. And Bobby is trying to do the best he can. And, the way you're talking about it is not right. And this and that. He just went like unhinged, which I've seen him do in a few press conferences back in 2016. He doesn't do it as much now, but yeah, like he went off on Jim Acosta one time. It was totally unhinged. So he's much better at handling them now than he was in 2016. So I was like, dang, he didn't understand the point. And it is a really good question. That's one of our healing modalities. So if you take away soda, are you taking away ginger ale? Because that's what we use for as a part of our healing. So I was like, dang, like, he missed a point. So when the press conference or whatever it was done, I think it was like a town hall or something, I saw somebody that I know from Twitter that I've never met in person, and he was with this girl, and they were talking to one of the Trump staffers. And this is not a person I recognize in real life. He had red hair, white man, chiseled features. I never seen him in real life though. So like I've never seen this person. This is not a person I recognize from Trump's team. But the Trump guy, the staffer was talking to the guy that I know from Twitter, and I had walked up to them and I was like, "Oh, how you doing? You know, nice to meet you," all that kind of stuff. And I had said to the guy, I was like, "Can I run something by you?" Because he really, went off on that girl, but he kind of missed the point of the question. And the staffer was like, "Oh yeah, of course, yeah, no problem. We're just going to grab some lunch. Do you want to go?" And I was like, "Oh, okay, I'll just grab my lunchbox on our way out." And so when we left out of this room and back into like the cafeteria kind of area, it wasn't just my mom and them no more. It was like my whole extended family on my dad's side, who I don't really even see that much. And so I was like, yeah, I gotta go have a meeting with them real quick. And my mom was telling one of my aunts on my dad's side, oh, she's always really busy, and she's got a lot of stuff to do and stuff like that. And I was like, all right, I'll see y'all later. And I have just continued on walking with the group. And then after that, I woke up. And the thought that I had about that was, it was persuasion. The girl who asked the question, she did not have the ability to persuade Trump with her question or the way that she phrased it. It was just, it just didn't connect. And so I was using my skill of persuasion to try to at least make sure they understood the point of, hey, we use this as healing. So like, if you take it away, that's kind of like one of our healing things. Like, that's just what we do. And so I was using my persuasion to try to make sure they understood the real point she was trying to make. And so later on, I saw this video, which I'll put the link in the comments, where the researchers that I follow had made a video talking about plasma. Now, I talk about plasma sometimes, but he goes into depth about what he thinks plasma is and how he thinks it works based on his own research and in the papers and Steiner and stuff, right? Which is fine and well, we're not going to get into all of that, except for I'm going to say that everything Rudolf Steiner knew he got from PBR. That's just his interpretation of what PBR was saying. And that is evidenced by the fact that he had to create all new words to describe things that already have words. And so that's one of my hallmarks. Like, when I read a paper by somebody and they have to create all new words to describe basic things, I'm going to assume that person got the information from someone else and they didn't understand it. And so they had to just repeat what they said. They couldn't synthesize it and put it into layman's terms. Everything can be put into layman's terms. I don't care what it is. Everything can be put into layman's terms. And so, okay. So the guy is, Douglas, he is talking about how plasma is basically everywhere. It does everything, and essentially it is, it can be formed into the balls, like the plasma balls that were all over the everywhere. And then those balls are basically like Merkabas, which we already knew because we could clearly see it, right? And that's how these different entities use to travel. Like, they use that to travel around, do their work, whatever the case may be. And so I was like, listening to him, and I was like, well, wait a minute. Whoa. I had this dream where this lady got this spiky thing thrown at her and she just hit the ground. I wonder if that was plasma. But then I had to think about it. I was on the ground. The whoever, which I'm now assuming is, well, I'll talk about that later, probably was Eris, threw the plasma ball at the lady, and what she had wished for me happened to her. So I kept thinking, okay, so if it's plasma, like if plasma, because I've been talking about ether, and maybe ether is a type of plasma, or maybe they're the same thing, but if plasma can be programmed to do different things, because in the video the guy was discussing how they found plasma in our brains, they found plasma in our blood, there's plasma everywhere, right? So if it's plasma that actually manifests, right? How do we program the plasma to manifest the things that we want? Because in human design, I'm a generator, right? I generate plasma. Manifestors manifest plasma. Projectors project what they want onto the plasma. Reflectors reflect back what the plasma they're interacting with actually is showing. So it's the human design types have to do with plasma or ether. I think they're the same thing. So again, my question is, how do you program it? Because I'm a generator. How do I program the plasma to bring about my manifestations, the things that I want? Because another thing is, I've been looking in my chart to try to figure out how I'm supposed to get money. And every placement I've looked at in my chart has nothing to do with physical wealth, resources, or anything. Like, nothing. And so it's really difficult to figure out how I'm supposed to be interacting with money if there's no money in my chart. Now, my Neptune is at 0 degrees of Capricorn, which Capricorn is coins. It's the first of the coins. So it would be the Queen of Coins, the number 2 card, which is the Empress, and the Star and the Sun. No. The Tower. No. Yeah. The Empress, the Tower, and the Star is all in Capricorn. 2, 3, and 4 of coins, and the Ace of Coins is all in Capricorn. So my Neptune has to deal with money, but like none of the symbols have to deal with money, because the way I'm looking at it is, if you look at what the Sabian, I use the Kosminskis, but if you look at what the symbology is for the particular degree, it should tell you how you're supposed to interact with money. And mine doesn't. I also have my Jupiter in Aquarius. Aquarius is also coins. So I have planets in the coins region, but I have no idea how I'm supposed to access them. And it's big ones. Neptune and Jupiter. Jupiter is expansion. It literally, that's what it is. And I cannot figure out how to access this stuff. And so this is what I had been looking into when I saw this thing about the plasma, and was like, okay, I can manifest from programming the plasma to bring me what I want. Now, how do I do that? I still don't have a how. Like that I feel comfortable with. But I wanted to put this story out there in the hopes that I could attract the how, because I really don't, for other people. So let me give you an example of using the symbology to figure out what they can do. I have a friend, and she can play the casino, she can go into the slots, she could do all kinds of stuff. And what happens is, one of her ancestors comes and tells her what to play. They tell her what to choose. And she says she really enjoys like that voice. And so I was telling her, oh, everything is in your chart. She's like, is that in my chart? And I'm like, oh God, why did I say everything was in your chart? Let me just take a look. So I went to look to see, where this was in her chart. And she has Eris conjunct the south node opposite the sun conjunct the north node, literally. And I was like, oh girl, you got sun and north node conjunct Eris and south node. That's what it is. And when I looked at the symbology, it was literally, the symbology was a person who is able to bring the light into dark places and make money from it, essentially. And I was like, that's why you can go into a casino and make money. That's why you can play a slot and, or whatever, a scratcher, whatever, and make money, because it's literally in your chart. Like, it's right here. And so I was like, well, that voice that you hear, it might be Eris. You might want to look into that. And so I was like, let me just pull it up for you and send it to you. So I went and I pulled Eris up, and as I was reading the story, I was like, wait a minute. Eris was a single mom. Her mother was the night sky, a lady of the night. And Eris was a single mom with 4 kids. And she was like, 4 kids? Because she has 4 kids. I was like, oh my gosh, this is Eris. And when I was reading the story, I was like, wait a minute. Is this like the icon of single mothers? Because her kids was bad. Bebe's kids. Single mom with 4 Bebe's kids. I was like, oh my goodness. This is who is the patron saint of single moms. This is crazy. So, because the story of Eris, if you don't know, is she is the one who started the Trojan War, because she was having a bad girls club fight with Aphrodite and a bunch of them, and they got into this big thing, and she threw this poison apple, and that started the whole Troy War, which took down the whole empire. And I say baddies because, again, these are, if you put the stories in terms of black stories, this stuff makes way more sense. Any other way, it don't make sense. But I said that baddies, bad girls club, yeah, that's clearly a group of black or love and hip hop, or that kind of stuff. That's clearly a group of black women fighting over the apple was golden, but it was poison, and none of them knew it. It was a whole thing. You can go back and read the story. And so I was like, okay, let me find the mantra for you. So another thing I'll point out is, when you find a Roman goddess or whatever, you got to go into the Hindu pantheon to find the mantra, because that's what the Hindu pantheon is all about. It's about these mantras. And so Eris is known as the goddess of chaos and discord. Well, the Hindu version of chaos and discord is Kali, Black Kali. And I'm like, oh, okay. See, the stories all make sense when you start to piece them together. So it's Black Kali who she was working with, or Eris, or whatever. They're the same energy. And so I was like, oh my gosh, that is who single moms, a lot of black single moms work with when they are trying to make things work. It's Callie who comes in there, because I typically work with Tara, right? And Tara is a little different. She a little chill. Like, Tara will do whatever it takes to prevent you from experiencing some type of trouble. All right, she will lay down her life in order to make sure you're safe. Callie ain't like that. Callie will take you out, your mama, your grandmama, your aunties, all these men. She will destroy them. She will send them up in flames and fire. That's Callie. Callie is not like Tara at all. They're not similar at all. And so, except they're both black, but they're not similar. And so I was like, oh my gosh, you're probably working with Callie. And because she's a Gen Xer, and Gen Xers are notoriously aggressive, a Scorpio Gen Xer with the sun opposite Eris, yeah, notoriously aggressive, like, for real, but able to bring the light into the darkness. That is a quality of Gen X. And so, and Eris is in her 11th house, was the house of her ancestors. And I was like, yeah, this is probably exactly what's going on with you. And so again, it's another female story that we have to retell in the proper order. I'm gonna do a separate video later, just once I really get Eris' story down, like I did for Sedna. But this is just putting it out there. So Eris in your chart is not necessarily poison, like they try to say. Sometimes it's where you have to stand up and protect your children at all costs. Protect yourself at all costs. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, of course. This is the positive side of that. There's a negative side of that where you throw people under the bus, but the positive side of it is like, you're not gonna let nobody walk all over you. No, we're not doing that. So another thing I want to mention, which is going to be another video. I don't know why I always make these videos and they got like 12 different parts to them, but we're going to talk about how to remedy your masculine and feminine energy. And that came to me because she also said, well, where in my chart is a man? I'm like, oh Lord, here we go. More stuff I ain't even trying to get into. So I was like, well, let me look. So I looked at her chart and I was like, well, the problem really isn't the man. The problem is you. Which is typically what I say. But basically, her chart is like mine, where she has her, well, no, hers is opposite of mine. No, her chart is like mine because she has her Venus and her Mars together. Now, when you have your Venus and your Mars together, they're supposed to remedy themselves. When they're separate, like really far apart, then you probably got to have someone else to come and help you remedy them. But if your Venus and your Mars are very close together, you got to remedy them yourself. And so I say, well, yours looks like mine. And really, for me, what it is leaning less into masculine energy and more into feminine energy. So it's like, even though I know I can do all this stuff, I have to lean into letting someone else do it, even if I know I can do it. So like me and my old man, it's a lot of stuff I can do. I still ask him to do it because that's me leaning into my feminine energy. But it's not just on the inside. It's also like I have to dress more feminine, act more feminine, less like a, they call single moms a lot of times these aggressive pit bulls. Got to get out of the pit bull energy and more into soft energy. And that's a general theme of what's going on in general. But you could clearly see that's one of the problems. I say you guys got to lean into more feminine energy, like keeping your hair done, your nails done, stuff like that. That's also a problem that I have. And so I'm like, okay, I see. Because my Venus is in a very masculine energy and my Mars in a very feminine energy. And so it's all inverted. Hers is not like that. Like mine is. Hers is her Mars energy